through the complete timeline of Westeros and Essos. From the very dawn of creation to the final breaking of the wheel. This is the story of ice and fire, of dragons and direwolves, of kings and queens who shaped the world through blood and magic. A tale that spans thousands of years, where every crown won was paid for in fire, and every throne built was carved from the bones of the fallen. But this story begins in darkness, in a time when the world was young, and terrible things stirred in the shadows. In the heart of the furthest north, where the wind howls through ancient forests, and the very stones remember fear, there once stood a man. He was no king, no lord, no hero sung in songs. He was just a man, but in his hands he held a sword that burned like the sun itself. The blade was called Lightbringer, and it was forged in such agony that the gods themselves wept at its creation. For to make this sword, this man had to drive it through the heart of the woman he loved most in all the world. Her scream echoed across the frozen wasteland as the blade ignited. And with that terrible sacrifice, the longest night in history finally came to an end. But who was this man? Why did the dead walk in endless winter? And what price did humanity pay for the dawn? These are the mysteries that thread through every age of our world, from the children of the forest to the final dragon queen. They are the questions that drove kings to madness and turned brothers into enemies. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Get into your blanket and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our story begins in the deepest mists of time, when the world was darker and stranger than it is today, when magic slowed like water and creatures as legend walked openly beneath the sun. This was the Dawn Age, when the first men to set foot in Westeros found it already ancient, already haunted by powers they could barely comprehend. In those days, the children of the forest ruled the land. They were not men as we know them, but something older, something that belonged to the trees and the stones and the deep places of the earth. They had faces like carved wood and eyes like golden flames, and they could speak to the heart trees in voices that sounded like wind through leaves. They carved their faces into the weirwoods so that they might watch over the world even after death, and their magic was so strong that they could shatter the very land itself when threatened. The children lived in peace for thousands of years, singing their songs to the old gods and dancing in moonlit groves. But peace, as all who know the Game of Thrones understand, is always temporary. Change was coming across the narrow sea, carried on ships of wood and ambition. The first men were sailing westward, and they brought with them bronze swords and a hunger for land that would not be satisfied. When the first men landed on the shores of Westeros, they found a realm beyond their wildest dreams. Ancient forests stretched from coast to coast, so thick that a man could walk for days without seeing the sky. Rivers ran clean and cold, teeming with fish that had never known the taste of nets. The soil was rich and black, perfect for growing the crops that we feed their children. But the land was not empty. The children of the forest watched from the shadows of the weirwoods, and they did not welcome these bronze-armed strangers. The war that followed shook the very foundations of the world. The first men cut down the sacred groves and put entire forests to flame. they drove the children back into the deepest woods and the darkest caves.